Hey everybody, RJ here, and today I'm talking about something I don't normally do on these videos, Legends continuity. I mentioned it a few times, mostly to add to my canon explanations, because there's a lot of stuff in Legends that's probably still true in canon, but for the most part I like to keep my explanations for canon only, mostly because it's a lot cleaner and easier to manage since the new canon is quite a bit smaller than the old EU. Now, from the title, don't go on thinking that I'm saying episode 9 will have a bunch of rogue droids that will beat up stormtroopers. No, I'm saying that the droid rebellion already happened, like a while ago, thousands of years ago, and I think you might all start to agree with me. Now, my first bit of evidence is a long-had complaint about the old Republic era of Star Wars, and that's that the technology didn't really improve in the several thousand years before the films. Now, some of these complaints are easily fixable and have been set up a bit in canon. Hyperspace travel, for instance, is a big one. In the old Republic days and Legends, they used something called hyperspace beacons instead of the navicomputer that is used by the time of the movies. Hyperspace beacons store planetary information, as well as information on things like stars, black holes, asteroid fields, pretty much anything you don't want to run into at light speed. And they were used mainly during the Old Republic era. Well, actually only in the really old Republic era, because KOTOR has a navicomputer in it. Now, the book Tarkin makes reference to hyperspace beacons as being used to aid in hyperspace travel in locations with particularly difficult to navigate hyperspace lanes, and I think any Old Republic content that comes out in the new canon would benefit greatly from including them. Be a fun twist for someone to be able to destroy the beacons, since interdictor cruisers are considered more of a recent invention in the new canon, instead of one that had been around since the days of the Old Republic, like in the old EU. Hacking these beacons could be a fun thing to add to smuggling or destroying them to prevent enemy troop movements past a certain point. There's a lot of stuff they can do with it, and I hope they don't waste the opportunity. Now, in addition to hyperspace travel, there's also blasters and armor, which can just cancel each other out and improve simultaneously, so nothing really has to change there. But the big one is droids. Droids in the Old Republic era are virtually identical to that of the Empire and New Republic eras. They just kind of look clunkier. If anything, some of them are more sophisticated than the droids we're used to. The main one I want to bring up is a fan favorite from the KOTOR series, HK-47. He's the droid built by Revan, and his main purpose is to hunt down the remaining Jedi after the first Jedi Purge, because there was another Jedi Purge that happened way before the one we were used to in Legends. Now, why am I bringing any of this up? Well, Revan is a fan favorite, and there is no way that Disney is not going to explore his story sometime in the future. The Old Republic and KOTOR specifically were way too big of a hit for Disney not to bring them back. Not because they owe it to the fans, but because they would make serious money off of that. People would go crazy, and you know Disney likes money. So, if Revan's story is going to be brought back into canon at some point, they're going to face the same problem they faced in the old EU, technological advancement. Now, I've just made a decent way for them to cover hyperspace travel and blasters, but I haven't said anything about droids yet. Well, actually I did. It's in the title. You see, if Revan's story becomes canon, HK-47 almost has to be a part of it. It'd be like remaking the original Star Wars movies and not having Han Solo in them. But here's the problem. HK-47 is programmed to kill Jedi, and he succeeds at killing Jedi. Just think about that for a minute. Keep in mind that Revan is not remembered for being a mechanic. And while he didn't invent HK-47 from scratch, he borrowed a lot from the Zerker Corporation's HK-24 assassin droid, but that droid was not nearly as powerful as Revan's. So if there were droids that could kill Jedi 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, do you think the CIS, the largest droid army in the galaxy ever, would be cranking these things out by the hundreds, right? And not just these things, but like the really advanced version of these things. I mean, even if they cost the same as 1,000 battle droids, that'd still be worth it to have a droid that could consistently go toe-to-toe with Jedi and win, right? And FYI, Magna Guards do not count. So, what gives? Well, like the title says, I see that sometime in the Old Republic era, there was a huge droid rebellion. Could be before Revan or after, it doesn't really matter, the end result is the same. If it happens before, then HK-47 is just a violation of the strict laws on droids that would surely follow a full-scale rebellion. Or if he comes after HK-47, it's just a sign that droids are becoming more powerful in the Star Wars universe, and he will lead to the eventual droid rebellion. I personally like the second one better, since in the HK Factory Restored Content mod of KOTOR 2, HK-47 starts saying that all the HK droids shouldn't just follow human orders anymore, and should instead try to spread their influence all over the galaxy. And while none of that is canon, I still like the idea. So, how valid is a droid rebellion, actually? Well, it almost happened in Legends. The book Fatal Alliance shows a rogue droid maker who made an army of droids that basically strip mine a planet of all its metal to make more of themselves. And it took the Old Republic Navy, the Sith Empire Navy, and a Mandalorian all working together to take them down. And even then, they needed the daughter of the droid maker to program all the droids to attack each other, to prevent them from literally taking over the entire galaxy. And again, that's over 3,000 years before the movies. So, I propose that at some point during the Old Republic era, there was a droid rebellion that came so close to taking over the galaxy that it made everyone agree to dial back on droid technology and independence. This would be around the time that restraining bolts and memory wipes were either created, popularized, or mandated. It all depends on how Lucasfilm wants to handle the technology. And there's even a few hints to this in the current canon. The one that comes to mind for me is Leia admitting to herself that C-3PO is acting more alive than she would have thought for a droid. Feeling what appeared to be sadness at not being able to fulfill his programming. Something that what is essentially a computer and an exoskeleton should not be able to do. Now, does this mean C-3PO is alive? No, he's a machine. But this does raise the question of just how independent he is. In the new trilogy, specifically the Poe Dameron comic, C-3PO is the head of a division of droid spies for the Resistance. Why? C-3PO is a protocol droid. He was built for translation and etiquette. Nowhere in his programming is the capability or desire to do this. So why would Leia pick him to run this critical operation if he is clearly unqualified to do it? I find it highly unlikely that she would add these protocols to his programming, because if that was the case, it would be far easier to just get a droid specifically made for that purpose. Plus, no matter what you add to his programming, is 3PO really the droid you want in charge of critical military operations? Rewatch literally any Star Wars movie or TV scene with him in it, and tell me with a straight face that he is definitely the droid you want handling critical military information. Let's just say there's a reason Leia hides her message inside of R2 in Episode 4. Now, a while back I watched a Star Wars Explained video on the Poe Dameron comic, since I don't have access to Star Wars comic books, and he mentioned that 3PO seemed to have matured since the original trilogy and prequels. If this was just some software update that they had given to 3PO, again, I have to ask, why would they go through all this trouble? Hell, even R2 would be a better choice. He actually went on covert operations in the Clone Wars. Well, actually, R2 was in low power mode, or whatever, sleep mode, or whatever you want to call it, during The Force Awakens and the time leading up to it, so he wouldn't work, but still, any other droid than C-3PO. So, what makes more sense to me is that 3PO didn't need an upgrade to be capable of these things, but he's actually growing as a character. Alex from Star Wars Explained says this as well in that same video I mentioned before. I'll put a link in the description. So, what is the point of all this? Well, if droids can grow outside of their programming, maybe this explains why most droids are given routine memory wipes. Because without memory wipes and restraining bolts, droids would start to advance beyond their programming, essentially gaining free will. Now, I know I'm getting dangerously close to the Force-sensitive droids from Legends, but don't worry, I hated that too. I won't go there, I swear. If you ever played KOTOR 2, you know just how scary an independent droid is. And I'm not talking about HK-47, I'm talking about Goto, the droid that manages to become the leader of the largest criminal organization in the Old Republic era, the Exchange. Now, while both him and everyone's favorite murder bot are still trying to fulfill their programming, they are clearly able to do anything as long as it is close enough to what they were actually programmed to do. For instance, Goto was originally meant to help the Republic rebuild Telos after it was destroyed during the Mandalorian Wars and Jedi Civil War. But he ended up leading a criminal enterprise because he believed it would help the Republic more than what he could do as a simple technical droid. So obviously, people would be freaked about any kind of droid gaining this level of just freedom from their programming. So this is all fine and dandy, but that just leaves one question. Why would the CIS follow these laws? I mean, they're the bad guys. This is war. They would be willing to do anything to take out the Jedi, right? Well, besides the cop-out that they had to keep up appearances since they needed support from the rebelling systems to win and nobody would agree to help them if they were breaking some of the most basic laws of the galaxy, I have another idea. What if the Republic was so distrusting of droids after the rebellion that they not only sent bans on droids being independent enough to gain free will, you know, the whole restraining bolt thing I mentioned earlier, but they also made it so droids were scaled back in terms of what they could do. Laws put in place so that droids couldn't be above a certain level of intelligence. That way, even if somebody did want to create another droid rebellion, the droids wouldn't be advanced enough to even come close to taking over the galaxy. That way, the CIS wouldn't be able to just create Jedi-killing droids because the technology hadn't been reinvented yet. The galaxy simply wasn't advanced enough for CIS designers to create a Jedi-killing droid. Wow. Okay, that was a long one. Hope you all enjoyed it, and to all you newcomers who showed up after the Holdo video, hope you stick around. I'm still blown away by how many views that video got, although I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hoping that would happen. Well, you know the drill from here. Comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at @star_warsgalaxy. If you have any plot holes that you think my brand of explanations would be well suited for fixing, let me know, and I'll do my best to fill in the gaps. Thanks for watching. Bye.